Hey, what's up, everybody? Back when I made my 5-part series about how to craft the best boxing game of all time, I was not sure that I'd even live to see the day that I get to play anything even close to what I was describing. Well, now I have. That's right. Undisputed exists. And it is a fascinating mix of promise, frustration, and brilliance. It feels like stepping into a gym where all of the equipment is top notch. And then the weights are bolted to the floor. But first, let me tip my hat to the developers for what they've nailed. The footwork in this game is a revelation. I spent years talking about the importance of pivoting and creating angles in a boxing game. And now, for the first time, the game actually gets it. Pivoting out of danger, shifting your weight around, just breaking free from the 2D confines of past games. It feels transformative. It's like they just handed us the keys to a Ferrari. We've been riding around in mopeds. I just appreciate that this game really does arm you with a large variety of tactical options and different ways of throwing every punch. The game's attention to individuality is also a big win. Each fighter moves with their own personality and throws punches with their own personality. And when you see Ali moving around, you say, oh, look at him go. There he is. Just like Ali would move. And Joe Louis, the way he steps and he moves, those deliberate steps, those deliberate punches, and you just feel the artistry and personality of their styles. Great job. But for every moment that makes you want to stand up and cheer, there's another moment that makes you want to spit out your mouthpiece and say, no mas. For starters, the haymakers are too overpowered and the basic punches are too underpowered. It's as if everybody is possessed by Deontay Wilder. Meanwhile, the counter punches, the regular punches, the bread and butter. You got marshmallow hands when you're throwing those punches. They need to balance that out. And now let's talk about the lack of feinting and clinching. You know, two of the most fundamental tactics in boxing. It's the equivalent of making a racing game with no pit stops, or a basketball game with no free throws. The corner commentary even mentions how important feinting is, and yet it's not there. It's like the game is smacking us in the back of the mouth. And clinching, forget it. I enjoy the inside fighting in this game. Another success for this game. But clinching is missing. That's bad. Now, the punches themselves are mostly excellent. The physics are some of the best I've actually seen in a combat game. When the punches deflect off of each other, that's a beautiful moment for me. Oh, the punches, they feel satisfying, and the more they update this game, it feels more and more satisfying, to be real with you. But then there's the knockdowns and the knockouts. That brings me crashing back down. They rely on preset animations, which you see them too much. After a bit, they're too predictable. You know how they're going to look. They're not surprising. So yeah, they're entertaining, especially at first, but they lack the unpredictability of real-life boxing. You understand? Knockouts should be visceral and unique every time, not recycled. So they really need to stop relying on those preset animations. No more of that. Customization is another mixed bag. I love that roster fighters have unique apparel with different options, but why are my creative fighters stuck with limited options? It's like giving everyone else a full wardrobe and my guy just gets one pair of pants. What's up with that? And don't get me started on the lack of detailed ring customization. I'm very disappointed about that. The idea of decking out a gym with pictures of your past big fights, inviting rivals over for a best-of-3 slugfest, personalizing everything down to the ring ropes and the color of the canvas. This is still just a dream. One die-hard boxing fan. So here's hoping that they do it in an update or revisit it in a sequel, which I hope comes to fruition as well. Let's finally get on to the online play, which is, well, let's call it a work in progress. Matchmaking sometimes feels like stepping into the twilight zone, because mirror matches are so frequent. It's just too frequent for my liking, personally. And then there's the quitting problem. until they recently updated it, but boy, did it bore a gigantic hole directly through the chest of this game. All right? Now, here was the problem getting denied a win because your opponent rage quits at the 9 count. It's infuriating. And that's not the only infuriating part. You actually get a loss for that. That has been patched out, but it was a bad problem. It was like having your hand raised, then they yank it back down mid-celebration, kick you in the nuts. When I realized they fixed this, and that quitting players therefore activate the throwing in the damn towel animation, I was very relieved. Very relieved. I think that demonstrates their capacity to keep improving this game, also, which is great. There's also currently no option for full-length championship fights online. 8 rounds? That's amateur hour, baby. Boxing is about endurance, strategy, and timing. For all its flaws, Undisputed has moments of brilliance. The perks system is a fantastic addition as well. That's something I said I wanted. Giving fighters more individuality and tactical options. The commentary, when it hits the mark, it adds a layer of authenticity. It always recognizes past fights that in a matchup between those two fighters, if they ever fought in real life. But it does occasionally stumble into very awkward and mistimed lines, or even repeat lines often. But despite its shortcomings, the game feels like a labor of love from developers who clearly respect and understand boxing. They've laid down a very strong foundation, but there's still construction to be done here. At its best, Undisputed is a glimpse into what could be the greatest boxing game of all time. At its worst, it's a reminder that greatness requires polish and time and follow-through. With the right updates, balancing haymakers, introducing feinting and clinching, expanding customization, fixing those Twilight Zone issues, this game could become legendary. I want to say thank you for everyone that watches this, watch my series of 5 videos about how to make the best boxing game of all time. And I want to say thank you to the developers of Undisputed for following through the best they can and make the greatest boxing game of all time. I think this is a better boxing game than Fight Night Champion. It gives you more tactical options. It fulfilled a lot of what was on my wish list, but not everything. They gotta have those unique knockdowns and knockouts. Come on. That's a big one. The big deal about boxing is it's so unpredictable. You're taking out the unpredictability out of boxing, and that's no good. We don't want repetition in this. Well, it's got to be a unique thing every time. That's what's so entertaining about it. So do the best you can. Thank you, everybody. Go fuck yourselves.